What is up? Good morning and welcome to Monday's Hangxiety, Club Fantasy's weekly recap show where we go over all of the action from the previous week. We help you decide which players you should get excited about and when it's time to just chill the fuck out. I am your host, Ryan Weisse. With me as always, hungover as ever, Josh Hudson. How you feeling today, buddy? It was a good
Those
night for
are
you.
the facts. Hungover
Yeah.
as fuck. I'm living the name of this show right now. But you know what? Eagles found themselves with a W, so I am not complaining at all. It was a great night. Yesterday we did a Friendsgiving with me and some of my friends here locally. So kind of just hung out at their place and watched the games all day, and obviously had a lot of alcohol all day. It was all in all, it was a fun time, but I'm definitely paying for it right now.
I don't know if there's a better 4-day period than Thanksgiving weekend if you are a football fan, because my goodness, the college, I don't even watch college football. Given my Ohio State. I've been giving my Ohio State friends such shit this weekend because I'm born and raised in Ohio. I would prefer Ohio State wins, but I just don't care. And they can't seem to wrap their heads around that. And so like I have one Michigan friend who's just laying into the Ohio State friends. And I'm like, well, what happened? And they're like, the game. I was like, what game? I was like, I didn't think they played NFL on Saturday. And they were just getting so mad at me because I only care about the NFL. It was a good time all in all. Apparently not a great time if you're an Ohio State fan.
No, and you know what? For the first half of that game, I was like, okay, this is going to be competitive. But that fourth quarter, Michigan just took off.
Well, I saw it was 24-20 going into the fourth quarter. So
yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, there were a lot of really good games on Saturday. A lot of upsets. I think 4 of the top 10 teams lost.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, so you have, and what I thought particularly interesting, just as an NFL fan, is how is this the week where NFL decides to balance their red zone coverage and there's actually 4 games in the 4 o'clock hour? Normally, I'll tell people right now, I usually jump on Call of Duty right when the 4 o'clock games start because I don't care to watch 2 or 3 games on red zone. It's just boring to me. But 4 games, I actually paid attention yesterday. It was a really good time. So
agreed. Yeah, there was a lot of offense yesterday in those in the early part anyway with some of the games, like, and then the 4 o'clock, like, just duds. I mean, KC looked flat. Was the other one? The Saints like shut out and held the 49ers to only 13 points. Like, I don't. Yeah, I mean, outside of that Raiders Seahawks game, and then of course the Chargers Cardinals going back and forth.
Well, Chargers Cardinals was fun, but that Raiders Seahawks was something else. But I want to point out one other thing. I didn't even think about bringing this up on the show, but I don't know. Do you watch Red Zone at all, or someone out there probably does? But
well, yeah, we had it on yesterday because we were at the house instead of.
Did you notice when they would have the Chargers game and the Seahawks game, it looked like one of those before and after depression medicine commercials because everything was like green and bright in the Chargers game. And then in the fucking Seattle game, it looked like it was almost black and white and like the most dreary, boring. And I don't know if it's just the way the field looks there and then the team colors because they both kind of have like that gray mixture. But like literally it looked like before you take your soul off and after. Like it was, everything has color and it was nice in the world. I was like, good Lord, it must just suck being a Seattle fan. Like, it's just dreary there, man.
Rough.
Found it interesting.
That's how I feel right now.
Yeah, it's this podcast. You have me who's fully awake and Josh who is still trying to feed the alcohol in his stomach right now. So we'll give Josh time to take a few bites. I'm going to quickly run over week 12. So game started on Thursday, 3 of them on Thanksgiving. The Bills sneak past the Lions in what I think was a way better game than anyone expected it to be. But with 2 back-to-back road games, even in the same stadium, I guess you can expect that. But the Bills get that win 28-25. Cowboys keep the NFC East interesting, 28-20 over the Giants. The Vikings survive.
There was a fun stat really quick that I saw.
No, please. Yeah.
The Bills won back-to-back games in Detroit.
First time since 2016.
And the Lions haven't done that in 6 years. I find that fucking hilarious.
Anyway, and one of them plays. Well, there's a stat where Ben Roethlisberger has the most touchdowns thrown in the Cleveland Browns stadium. Like, how incredible is that? And then the Vikings survive another close game. They have some like insane record of games decided by 8 or fewer points right now. They win 33-26 over New England.
That was the most undisciplined Patriots game I have seen in probably my lifetime.
I can't believe they threw the ball as much as they did. Yeah.
Like, I like special teams, which has always been like their forte. It looked so bad. Oh my God. They lost that game more than Minnesota won it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And then did you see the tweet last night that Philadelphia special teams is so bad that they're averaging 50 yards a kickoff return because they were bringing them out of the end zone or something like that? So.
Jesus.
The Dolphins cruise again, 30-15. All 30 of those points were in the first half, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Bengals edged the Titans 20-16 in a relatively ugly game. Defenses actually showed up there. Panthers, I put stun the Broncos, but the Broncos are just so bad. Maybe we're still just stunned. But the Panthers get the win there, 23-10. And I'm going to bring up the NFC South here in a little bit. But what an interesting division that is. The Jets just beat down the Bears, 31-10. And this is where our first major injuries pop up. Justin Fields did sit out that game. They said they are not going to play Justin Fields until he is 100%. I have a fun story about that. Darnell Mooney is likely done for the season with an ankle injury. He's going to need surgery. They're getting a second opinion today. And then Michael Carter is dealing with an ankle sprain. They did not talk about the severity. Most ankle sprains this season have been 4 to 6 week injuries, but then you have James Robinson, who was a healthy scratch yesterday. So the Jets, who are very much in the playoff picture, are taking L's where it matters.
And what I thought was like the Bears pulling this okie doke, like Simeon warming up.
That's the thing I wanted to talk about. Yep.
Yeah, like Simeon warming up, tweaks an oblique or something, and last minute they say, "Oh, we're gonna go Nathan Peterman."
Yep.
And then next thing you know, Simeon trots out first, and I'm just like, "What?"
So fun story. So people who followed along with us know that I joined an insane 32-team full offense, full defense league this year. I have Justin Fields as my quarterback. When the injury happened, I went and looked, and Trevor Siemian was actually available in free agency. A lot of times in this league, people will stash other people's backup quarterbacks to force trades. So I actually grabbed him. I am undefeated in this league somehow as an expansion team, first year in the league. And then they announced, Josh, that Trevor Siemian is not starting. So I was like, well, there goes the streak. I was like, I'm just going to leave Siemian in my lineup. Whatever happens, happens, because he was the emergency backup. And then he starts the game and gets me enough points. I am looking to stay undefeated. I will be 16-0 after this week. We played double headers in that league to try to play like the NFL schedule. But the Trevor Siemian thing caught me by surprise when he threw that first touchdown. I was like, whoa, I didn't even know he actually started the game, as you talked about the Bears okie doke there. So the Commanders just barely beat the Falcons 19-13. The Browns, I do think this was a shocked the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 23-17. I want to talk a little bit about that game as well. The Jaguars steal one from Baltimore 28-27, 2-point conversion for the win. Travis Etienne did
loved it. That's the type of thing that a coach taking over a young team, exactly. Those are the types of moves they need to make, because you are showing this team that, hey, you know what? We're in this for the long haul. Right now, yeah, sure, there's still a shot. They're 3 games behind Tennessee, and I personally think that the Titans are a good team.
That division is bad. Like
they're like Tennessee should run away with this, but Jacksonville's going to put up a fight, and going for 2, beating a team like the Ravens.
Yep,
that is what you need to boost this team. And just like you mentioned here, Etienne leaving with the foot injury, they were saying that he was fine, that he checked out. He could have come back into this game.
I just saw the report that he could have come back into the game.
So, which kind of is like, all right, well, why didn't he then? It was a close game. But, you're protecting your young players, and I get that, and I'm okay with that.
Well, and Doug
Especially
Peterson's
because Hasty looked good.
JaMychal Hasty looked good. Doug Peterson's not an idiot, and I just want to talk about Trevor Lawrence looked great yesterday. That's going to come up later in the show. And I've been saying
he was my Justin Fields fill-in one of my leagues.
Oh my God, how awesome is that? Well, I'm pissed. I was debating Heinke or T-Law as my stream of the week, and like I've done all season long, flipped them and made the wrong fucking choice. But I always have the right guy on the list. You just have to not pick the top guy. But yeah, wonderful game there. Another wonderful game. Raiders run all over Seattle. Josh fucking Jacobs, he's going to come up later in the show. 40-34 in overtime. Josh Jacobs just put that team on his back. Chargers battle back against Arizona, another 2-point conversion win. They won that game 25-24. 49ers blanked the Saints 13-0. Eli Mitchell did sprain his MCL. They're saying it's not as bad as the one that's kept him out half the season, but looks like it's going to be back.
Maybe now we'll get peak Christian McCaffrey, that represents the draft capital that you gave up to get this guy, because my God.
Yeah, no more
usage is been baffling, and it's
no more
costing me
protecting him.
games.
The Chiefs win by far less than they should. Josh hit it on the head. The Rams defense played so well in this game, but the Chiefs were flat. Patrick Mahomes looked weird. A lot of the throws, he was throwing to every tight end, including Travis Kelce, but the other ones far as often, I guess. But the passes were weird. So many of them were right in the hands of the defender and getting knocked away. I'm a big Travis Kelce guy. I was paying a lot of attention to that game. And it just looked, it was a weird game out of Patrick Mahomes in that one. However,
if you bet on this game, you were pissed. The spread was 16 and a half, and they won by 16.
It's like they knew. And then Allen Robinson, the Rams take another hit at wide receiver, done for the year with a foot injury. So they are going to be led by Van Jefferson and Ben Skoranek from this point forward. It's going to be an interesting team there. And then they've also mentioned Matt Stafford is unlikely to play again this year. And I think the Allen Robinson injury guarantees Matt Stafford does not play again this year. And then I'm going to let Josh just take it over. The Eagles take down a barn burner, 40-33, 73 total points to close out Sunday Night Football. Josh, talk to us about your Eagles.
That was wild. Oh
my God.
The end of the first half, both of these teams combined for 47 points.
Yeah.
I think the over-under for the entire game was 46 and a half. Like, what? Like, did not see this coming at all. Like, I was talking with a buddy of mine who I was watching the game with, and he's like, we need to put up 40 this week. He's like,
he was right.
He's like, we need to put up 40. We need to show that we can keep up with Dallas after Dallas put 40 on Minnesota. And, you know, honestly, Dallas didn't look great against the Giants either. They did just enough to win that game, but the Eagles came out slinging. What worries me the most, they sucked on defense yesterday.
Yeah,
absolutely sucked.
Well,
obviously,
losing
shit. Gardner Johnson was not great, but like 2 plays after his replacement, Blankenship comes in. Blankenship gets an interception, so it's like we didn't even skip a beat there. But yeah, like, you know, Christian Watson, 63-yard touchdown from Jordan Love, no less. Like, where is our defense? Like, what are we doing? This game should not have been that close, but I feel like the luster of how great the tandem of Slay and Bradbury has been this year, I feel like it's starting to wane a little bit.
We forget
to come back down to earth.
We forget that corners still get beat, and it was easy to forget that with the way the Eagles have been playing. So.
Yeah, absolutely they do. But like, I'm not seeing like they went out, they traded for Robert Quinn. Okay, fantastic. We had 3 total sacks yesterday.
Yep.
And it really didn't seem like it was a big impact on the game.
I was going to say, and if you really look at it, and I think hindsight is 2020, pass rush has been more of the Eagles' issue. Or excuse me, run stopping has been more of the Eagles' issue than pass rush. So.
Yeah, well, but I mean, you know, outside of the, 64 yards to Dillon, I felt that, they did okay stopping the run, which where the fuck has that been all goddamn year? Seriously, like, what are we doing?
Well, and the Aaron Jones touchdown. Oh my God, where has that? We've been talking about that forever.
Like, well, I mean, that was a receiving touchdown. So
that's what I mean.
I mean, a touchdown's a touchdown at that point.
Oh, I don't even mean, I mean, you said, where has it been? I was just happy to see Aaron Jones used as a wide receiver. Like, that was crazy. We'd been
well, I mean, he was tied for second on the team in targets. Watson has separated himself. I think he is the wide receiver 1 on this team going forward for the rest of this year and for future years.
Yeah.
But I mean, Dillon and Jones tied with 4 targets. Randall Cobb had 4 targets. Like, I mean, they're spreading the ball around. Great. But, like, you're losing most of this game and you're only throwing the ball 25 times versus running the ball 21. Like, I don't know. I feel like, again, like, some of these coaches, there's just there's no sense of urgency. It's the same thing with Arthur Smith. It's like, oh, I don't care. I'm going to run the fucking football. And it's like, dude, that's not going to help you come back. Like,
more rushing yards for Jalen Hurts this game
15,
than passing.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Jalen Hurts went off. Absolutely went off on and even Miles Sanders 143 and 2 touchdowns. Like,
what a game for Miles Sanders.
They controlled this game on the ground. 363 yards. Like,
had to kick it over our boy George, who thought he had it all going with the AJ Brown touchdown, but Miles Sanders went ahead and took care of that for him. So,
that hurt. Well, and the AJ Brown fumble definitely did not help matters either. Like,
didn't he fumble a week ago as well, or 2 weeks ago? Like, I feel like he might be in his own head right now. Though I will say the next catch he had, they were trying to get that ball from him, and he was holding on to that thing for dear life.
Well, and that's what you should do after you fumble.
Absolutely.
Sense of urgency.
No, it was an absolutely great game. I think if you're an Eagles fan, you come out of there, they're at least addressing their issues, and I think that's major because they've shown some problems over the last few weeks, but you're still getting those wins, and that's what matters. Plus, it's looking pretty good for you guys to get that bye week. So,
well, and honestly, we need it at this point. We got to get
100%.
healthy. We need Goddard back. Oh my God, we need Goddard back.
I was gonna say, I went back and looked at the stats to see if they involved any of these lesser tight ends, and obviously they've gotten
Calcaterra had one catch for -2 yards.
That's what I saw for -2 yards, and Quez Watkins has gotten far more involved, which is going to come up later in the show as well. But Dallas Goedert might be a way bigger part of this offense than anyone was giving him credit for to this point. So,
yeah, it was. It's rough to see. Obviously, Goddard being such a huge part of the offense, but it's nice to see they're using all 3 wide receivers.
This is a fun one, Josh. So he is now tied. His opponent has Michael Pittman, and Pittsburgh is just terrible against the wide receiver. And he gets to choose which D to play tonight. He's confident he's going to take the L, but Josh, who do you start here? Do you start the Steelers and hope they shut down Pittman, or do you start the Colts and go game script independent?
It's not so much to me like, start the Colts D and they're going to limit Pittman. Pittman's still going to get his. I need 21 from Paris Campbell this week tonight. So I'm rooting for it. But you say this all the time with defenses, sacks and turnovers. What does Pittsburgh do really well? They sack the quarterback. Yep. Especially when TJ Watt's playing.
I feel better if Minkah Fitzpatrick was in this game, but I agree completely.
Is he out too?
Yeah, I think he was out. I may be wrong. I thought they put him on the IR. I think he's on the 4-week IR. I could be wrong. Let me look.
I mean, if you're betting on, because I know George pulls this up, he's betting on a defensive touchdown. I think at that point you probably have to go the Colts only because of Kenny Pickett and how willingly he's been slinging it and carelessly slinging it at this point.
I am wrong. Minkah Fitzpatrick is playing, so I would certainly go Steelers defense.
Yeah, go Steelers here. If Fitzpatrick is playing, that guy has a nose for the end zone. So
yep, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
all right.
Like I said, Pittman's still going to get his. Their corners aren't great. The back end and the front, with the line and everything is great, but.
Yeah, and you have Shaquille Leonard out for Indy. I know he is actually out. I thought Fitzpatrick was, but
yeah. All right, on IR, I believe.
Yes, on IR and unlikely probably to come back this season. We'll see how that goes. Let's get into the second part of the namesake of this show, the hangover. And Josh, I love your first bullet point, so I'm just going to let you take over.
I'm the hangover. Not the movie, the physical representation. But on a more serious note, I'm pretty sure the feel-good story of 2022 has come to an end. Dameon Pierce in back-to-back weeks, 15 carries, 16 yards. That is hashtag not good. 5 carries for 8 yards this week against a pretty soft Miami run defense. 10 carries for 8 yards against Washington the week before.
Yeah,
this Texans offense is just bad.
Yeah, no bueno.
Making the switch from Davis Mills to Kyle Allen really was not ever going to help.
What did that solve?
Nothing. Quite literally nothing. Davis Mills could have put up 10 points in the first half at minimum. Maybe you're trying to send a message to the young kid. Whatever it is, but this offense just is not working at all. Like, teams are just realizing that they can put 9 in the box at this point to stop Dameon Pierce because their wide receivers aren't doing it. And my God, were we wrong on Brandon Cooks? Holy crap.
Oof.
Dude. He's taking his Allen Robinson career arc right now.
100%.
And I'm not loving it at all.
And where we have to fix this is next year, don't buy into the Brandon Cooks rebound, because we bought into this Allen Robinson rebound so hard and look stupid for doing so. We have to back off of that next year.
Yeah, this is oof. All I know is Houston's they're sitting pretty to have their choice between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, and I'm really curious to hear
Yeah.
The back and forth amongst, everybody in the community that, scouts these guys and, who has who higher and, all the traits and all that kind of stuff, because to me, they're really close and they're both really good.
I'll have to take your word for it. I don't watch college football.
Bryce Young did his thing against Auburn on Saturday. It was fun to watch. Yeah, I think a lot of with Bryce Young is just going to come down to size, because he's like Teddy Bridgewater skinny.
For my biggest head scratcher, I went with I put the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it's really the entire NFC South. But starting with the Buccaneers, you're playing a 3-win Cleveland team that could not stop the run. You throw the ball 43 times and run just 19, and one of those 19 was Tom fucking Brady. I don't understand the logic here. Rachaad White averaged over 4.6 yards per carry in this game. The Browns, we're going to run the ball. I don't understand why you just don't match the Browns' energy in this one. Super weird, but you're going to bring up a little bit later. The Browns also played balls out in this one. They went out there and got a win. And we got to talk a little bit about this Browns team, because you paid all this money to go get Deshaun Watson. And now all of a sudden, if you can win out, a tall order, but if you can win out, you're going to make the playoffs on a 7-game winning streak. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But then when you just look at the NFC South, the Saints shut out by the 49ers. Great defense, but offense couldn't get anything going. Andy Dalton continually looks bad. Why they're not going back to Jameis, I have no idea. The Falcons had a chance in their game. They've played better than anyone expected. And then Carolina beats Denver. So I go take a look at the NFC South win-loss record right now. And you have 2 teams with 5 wins and 2 teams with 4 wins. Everybody in that division is still in the playoff race. But way more importantly, not one of them has scored more points than their opponent has this season. Like, they are all negative in points for, points against, in just the weirdest division I've seen in quite a long time. Tom Brady came back for this. Like, I don't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this team, dude, the moment that Bruce Arians stepped down and they went to Todd Bowles, the nail in the Bucs coffin was set. Todd Bowles is not a great head coach. Awesome defensive coordinator. Calls a great game, and he's done that at numerous stops. But leading a team, he's not it. I don't see it. He always looks very apathetic in a lot of his press conferences, and there's not like a rah-rah type energy with him at all.
Yeah.
And it's really showing with this team. Like, there's no sense of urgency at all. Like, what? I don't get it at all. Like, Bruce Arians was very in your face, and I'm not saying you have to be that way to be a good leader and be a good head coach, but there's no, I don't see it with Todd Bowles, and it was this way even when he was leading the Jets. Like, yeah.
I understand Father Time wins all battles, this, that, and the other, but there was a big thing last year about Bruce Arians not agreeing with the game plans that Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich were drawing up and then changing them. Well, you were a hell of a lot more successful last year. So I don't know. Maybe these head coaches matter a little bit. Like, maybe we don't let the inmates run the asylum. Our buddy Marvin here, I love that Marvin's asking us dynasty questions, because I'm pretty sure when you and I have dynasty questions, we ask Marvin.
Right.
But no, I really appreciate it, because it's such a great topic. And, with the Texans being as bad as they are and Dameon Pierce looking how he's looked, do we think he is a replacement candidate next year? Because he's going to be a very interesting dynasty asset. I was going to bring up, I think this is probably a rookie wall situation. We're hitting that point in the season where rookies are now playing games that they haven't played this deep into the season. So I think we're likely hitting a rookie wall, but it's not just a rookie wall. It's a rookie wall behind a very bad offense. So, like, Dameon Pierce is probably demotivated at this point. Obviously, he was playing for Rookie of the Year, things along those lines. I don't think he gets replaced, mainly because I imagine the Texans probably do still have their second-round pick. They're clearly going quarterback in the first round. I think they have to address their O-line with that early pick in the second round. I don't know that they're going to have the draft capital, but they did get a great savings on him. But we've seen this before where you don't just keep replacing third and fourth round running backs with more third and fourth round running backs. I think he'll get his fair crack at it. If you believe in the talent that is Dameon Pierce, I think he's going to probably be fine. He looked very good on his good runs. They just got to put a better team around him at this point, Josh.
Here's the thing, though. Houston has 12 draft picks.
Okay. Do they have multiple ones?
Picks, and they have 2 1s because they have Cleveland's first this year.
That changes things then, because if they can get their offensive lineman in the second one, they could go running back in that early.
And this is essentially what we saw with the Jets this past year with Michael Carter. It's no different than what we saw with the Jags last year when they or 2 years ago when they after James Robinson, they used the first on ETN. Now, granted, I don't know if Urban Meyer is not the head coach that they take Travis Etienne, but the fact of the matter is they still took Travis Etienne.
And it's working.
And it's just anytime you're dealing with these running backs that, don't have like the high draft capital. And I know this is a big thing in the dynasty community. It's like, pay attention to the draft capital because that's where teams are investing. The one thing that I'm seeing from Dameon Pierce is that, yes, they do have some holes on the offensive line. Like Laramie Tunsil's not really a spring chicken anymore. I never thought he was a great offensive lineman to begin with, but everybody else seemed to think he was like a stud left tackle, is what it is.
As did the Texans. Look what they paid for him.
But they went guard in the first round last year.
Yep.
They can still plug some holes there, but they need to, keep in mind, this is a defensive-minded head coach. If Lovie Smith survives this year, which I'm honestly not fully convinced that he will, and they're just churning out head coaches the way that, colleges are churning out players in the transfer portal at this point.
Well, they seem to be in the situation Cleveland always finds himself in, where it's always a new coach, it's always a new quarterback.
But and that's the mentality that they're breeding at this point. It's like, you bring in a new coach, like, give it some time. Like, they're not going to turn things around like that. It's just not
for years. I hate the way the NFL churns coaches.
Yeah. So, like, me personally, should the Texans spend a pick on a running back? No. But this is also a really good running back class.
Yeah.
Marvin, I don't want that juju in my life. Let's keep Bijan out of Houston. He deserves so much better than the Texans. Okay. No. Honestly, my dream scenario is I want to see Jahmyr Gibbs, the Alabama running back. I want to see him on Kansas City. That guy is so much like Alvin Kamara. And
I have a theory about the Kansas City running back that Josh didn't even know I was going to bring up. So.
But no, like they have 2 firsts. They have multiple mid-round picks as well. Like, just like you said, like spending back-to-back mid-round picks on running backs, that's not going to solve an issue. We see all the time, like running backs in the middle rounds hit. You've got a guy that's hit. You don't need another running back. So build the rest of the team. This is a defensive-minded head coach. They want to play good defense. They want to run the football. Well, you have the run the football side. Now you got to play good defense. So use those draft picks to plug that. Now keep in mind, too, free agency is going to play into this as well.
Yes.
They're going to have some salary cap space. We're going to see what holes they plug via that. And then it may come to a point where they're sitting in the top of the second round. Best player available happens to be a running back.
And it's a potentially massive free agent running back year.
Exactly. So. And that's the other side of it, too. Maybe they go out and sign Josh Jacobs.
He fits.
Exactly.
Yep.
So,
Josh, you had a couple more picks for your hangovers. I'll let you get into those, and then you can tell the good people about Manscaped.
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. The Broncos, you suck. Straight up. You just lost to the fucking Panthers with Sam motherfucking Darnold at quarterback. And for as good as this defense is, DJ Moore burned. I don't even want to say burned. Like, literally just ran right away from Pat Surtain to catch his 4th touchdown of the year.
Yep.
Like, I feel like there's, as good as the Broncos defense has been, they're wearing down. They're getting tired of carrying this bumfuck offense that is god-awful.
It'd be a one-loss team.
There's defensive players getting into arguments with Russell Wilson on the sideline. Yes.
Defensive tackles, not even good defensive.
Exactly. Like defensive tackles.
If Patrick Surtain wanted to go hand-to-hand with Russell Wilson, I get it. But we got D tackles going at him now. So.
This is just so bad. Like the fucking Broncos, man. I just and it's the same thing with the Rams. Like, you give up all this draft capital to get the quarterback. At least the Rams have hardware.
I was going to say, they bought a Super Bowl.
They at least got a championship out of this. The Broncos blew a bunch of draft capital, blew $250 million, and don't even have their first round pick the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, wow. On the flip side to that, Ken Walker, better days are ahead. Like, 39 total yards against the Raiders, who since week 7 have yielded the most fantasy points to running backs, averaging over 110 yards per game. And he rushes for 26 yards. His day was literally saved by those 2 touchdowns. But damn, that his performance could have been all-time low. Like, that really surprised me, considering this is a team that wants to run the football and had a prime matchup to take advantage of that, because the Raiders suck at stopping the run.
I'll say one of those touchdowns was keep your legs moving and let your offensive lineman push you in.
Oh, absolutely.
It was awesome to watch, but it's not great.
Yeah, it was oof. Yeah. I mean, if Ken Walker has like a game, man, what could have been?
Yeah.
What could have been? All right.
Definitely a weird one, but yeah, let's talk about Manscaped, Josh.
Cool. Oh, let me grab my sheet. All right. Monday's Hangxiety is presented by Manscaped. The best in men's below-the-waist grooming, Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. That package includes the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker Ear and Nose Hair Trimmer, Crop Preserver Groin Deodorant, Crop Reviver Toner, Performance Boxer Briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of your goodies. Now, Manscaped was kind enough to send myself and Ryan each this performance package. I've been talking about this for the last week because Ryan hasn't been on the show with us. But Ryan, how's it been treating you and your family jewels?
It's fantastic. And I'm not going to get into my personal hygiene habits, but what I will say is I am someone who likes quality products. I grew up broke. I don't mind telling people this. And I've used those like flimsy, shitty razors that fall apart on you. And with this feels like a high quality item. You know it's going to last. It's waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. It has their skin safe technology, so it's there to help you reduce the risks of nicks and ingrown hairs. It's just a very, very good product. And I don't mind telling people that, like, it feels good in your hand. And you can't always say that about some of the razors you're using out there. So, and then the boxer briefs are super comfortable, but more importantly, the travel bag. This isn't one of those little fabric travel bags. This thing is made of like a high quality leather, great lining inside. This is something you can be happy to take places. It's a very cool thing. It's very nice. If you were someone or care about someone who needs grooming, it's a great product. It's a great gift.
So like Ryan, join over 5 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. Go to manscaped.com, enter in the promotional code CLUBFANTASY, all spelled out one word. You can see it on the bottom ticker going to the left, I guess, and save 20% on your entire purchase and free shipping. So go to manscaped.com, use the promo code CLUBFANTASY, save 20%, and get free shipping. We appreciate it because it helps us pay the bills, so the money stops coming out of my pocket and Ryan's pocket, or more accurately, his wife's pocket.
Yeah, definitely my wife's pocket. And I will, you know what? Let me throw one more thing out. It's good for the ladies in your life too. Marlia absolutely loves this thing, and we're probably going to get her her own. So, and you know what? I'm going to use promo code fantasy, save some damn money because I'm spending her money anyway.
There you go.
Our next section we call the shot of espresso. These are performances that really just got the juices flowing. I'm actually going to take the lead on this one. I don't know why I am so taken aback by the Geno Smith story. Maybe it's because he's like 32 years old and I'm a 40-year-old dude and you just want to see older guys succeed. But it took him so long to get his second chance. 328 yards yesterday. It's the third highest of his career, and it's the most yards he's thrown in a game since 2014. That's 8 fucking years ago. This is his highest total over that period. The team is in the playoff race. They're playing well. And one of the things I was saying yesterday is he's making Pete Carroll look really good. And so when you combine what Geno Smith is doing, and that dime ball he threw to Tyler Lockett was just beautiful. But when you combine what Geno Smith is doing with what Russell Wilson not doing. Yeah. It makes Pete Carroll look really good. We kind of talked about this where like Tom Brady spent a lot of years making Bill Belichick look good. This might have been Pete Carroll spending a lot of years making Russell Wilson.
Well, I mean, you're seeing the second act of Geno's career, 100%. Kind of similar to like what we saw with Kurt Warner. Like he did all those. Obviously, I'm not comparing the early season careers, but like Kurt Warner leapt out of the gates with the Rams and then just completely fell off. Spent some time as a backup with the Giants, then going to the Cardinals and kind of regaining that starting job. And blossomed once again.
Yeah.
And we're kind of seeing now, like, Geno is having that second act, kind of similar to like what Rich Gannon had way back when, for people that are old enough to actually remember that. Like, Gannon was a nobody. And then when he landed with Gruden in Oakland, like, just revitalized that franchise. And, had himself a good 3-4 year run, whatever it was. And we're seeing that now with Geno. Maybe this doesn't continue next year. Maybe this is just a one-hit wonder. But really, all this is doing, this is setting Seattle up so perfectly, because they have the Broncos first this year and next year.
Yep.
We know how bad the Broncos are this year. They're going to be able to get, whether it's a premium defensive end that the Seattle has just whiffed on over the past few years with these late round picks, or continue to build that offensive line the same way that they selected Charles Cross at 9th overall this past year. Because that's a position they really have not invested in over the years. They've been, band-aiding the offensive line for a decade, it feels like. Yeah. And now they have an opportunity to get these premium draft picks to build a quality line, because that's what Pete Carroll wants to do, is run the football. Well, you do that more effectively with a quality offensive line. So they can go defense, they can build through the trenches however they want to do it. And if Geno falls off next year, they get an early 2024 first round pick and whatever Denver ends up with. So they'll set themselves up to potentially trade up or already be in a position to get one of the top quarterbacks in 2024. And as much as we talk about how good Stroud and Young are, Caleb Williams is even better. Sure. So he's going to be the crown jewel of that 2024 class.
I love it. It's just funny. You kind of hit something I was going to bring up is Seattle went into this trade knowing they were going to have probably an early pick and a late pick. They just didn't know it was going to be the Broncos' early pick and their late pick. Like that was not the expectation. And I'm just going to quickly throw in, Josh, before we get to yours, Trevor Lawrence, just seeing him look good, because first of all, I kind of called it that as the season got better, he was going to get better. But 321-3, it's only his third 3-touchdown game of his career, but it's the best fantasy performance he has ever put up in his career. And I just think the sky is the limit with him and Doug Peterson. So I am looking forward to watching that relationship and that team grow. It's going to be interesting to see what they do at wide receiver, because they obviously have Christian Kirk locked down, but I think Marvin Jones is a free agent. Don't know.
Well,
Zay
remember,
Jones
they traded for Calvin Ridley too.
I completely forgot. Thank you so much. I did forget that. So what an interesting team they are going to be in a division that I think you and I both agree everybody else is kind of on a downswing. So they could be hitting the upswing at the perfect time.
Yeah, and they could be, they could look at one of these other young receivers too. I mean, they signed Zay Jones to a 3-year contract, and he's, he balled out for him yesterday. I mean, 11 catches on 14 targets?
14 targets, yeah.
Man. Yeah, he's looked really good in that sort of secondary role. You mentioned, losing Marvin Jones, but he's 33, I think, by the time next year rolls around.
And that was
now you put Kirk in the slot. You've got Ridley on one side, Zay Jones on the other. Maybe you draft one of these young wide receivers in the second round. Now you've got a Zay fill-in potentially. This passing, and not to mention ETN behind him. This offense could be really good within a year.
And I think they're going to benefit by likely taking a running back in this draft as well.
At some point,
people are going to freak out about it, but don't.
Not at all. All that's going to do is, you've seen how efficient Travis Etienne is. Now you put a bruiser in front of him that can wear down defenses. It's only going to make him more efficient.
Yeah,
he doesn't need to be a 30 touch per game guy.
I look forward to seeing this team grow. Josh, I love your picks as well. Go ahead.
Well, and speaking of bruisers, Josh fucking Jacobs. Just imagine if Jacobs goes to Jacksonville with ETN.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that could be a tandem, let me tell you. But 33 rush attempts yesterday.
Whew.
This team only had 40 as a whole. They are running this guy into the ground, and if you listen to me this offseason, you would have Josh Jacobs on your team. Let me tell you.
Josh, you had been saying this the entire preseason that they were going to
kill Josh Jacobs. Need for this team to not run this guy into the ground.
Yep.
He's going, they declined his fifth-year option. He's going to be a free agent. Get the most out of him. Of course, I figured that Las Vegas would actually be in contention.
Didn't we all?
That hasn't worked out the way that they'd hoped. But 229 yards. He had over 300 total yards when you factor in 74 receiving yards on 7 targets. Obviously, the 84, 86-yard touchdown run in overtime. Like,
that helps.
Dude, just unfreaking believable. 48.3 fantasy points. You love to see it. Straight up. You absolutely love to see it. But then my next one, this is obviously a little bittersweet, but Christian Watson.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a league winner.
I'll say shout out to Joel, our writer Joel Worth, who has been telling us to stick with Christian Watson for a while now.
Yeah. I was on Lightning Round Fantasies show a couple Wednesdays ago, and their whole segment, the whole show was about potential league winners. And that was Kevin Tompkins' pick. He's also a Packer fan, so it was a little biased, but Christian Watson is coming on. He's, scored for the 3rd game in a row, 5 total touchdowns in a 4-day span, and then tacks on another one here with the 63-yarder, not from Aaron Rodgers, but from Jordan Love. So that should get the juices flowing a little bit, not just for fantasy managers, but also Packers fans. Like, if this is it for Rodgers, because again, like, there really isn't a need to bring him back, and he left this game with an injury. Why not play the rest of the season out with Love? See what you have. Maybe you turn 100%. Him into trade bait if you build upon Rodgers. Like, that's what you want to see. And again, this came against a good Eagle secondary. Like, you want to see that 110 yards, a touchdown on 4 catches. I'll take it. And if you blew that fab to get Watson, or you lucked out to get him on waiver priority, kudos, because you got yourself a league winner there.
And Josh, I kind of yell at people in my waiver wire article every week because, I understand I have like 20 loyal readers and they probably all have Christian Watson, but Christian Watson went from like, I think it was 9% rostership and only made it to 50%. And that was after the second good performance. What the hell were people thinking? And so I don't know what he's at right now. I didn't look after waivers have run. He clearly isn't going to be out there very much anymore. But the touchdowns have just been coming in bunches. And my goodness, when you see these types of things, use that last roster spot on players like this, because you've hit it on the head. It's about league winners. It's about people finding the end zone to end the season. We call our next segment Morning Mimosas, and Josh, you picked a perfect team to talk about. It's when we just have that tingling feeling that something's on the horizon, and you and I started talking about this team in the pre-show, and I was like, we need to save this for the show because we were making some really good points. So let's talk about it a little bit.
Well, real quick, Watson's rostership percentage on ESPN is currently 75.6.
So still only 25% up after he had caught, what was it, like 5 touchdowns and 6 catches. So he went from 50 to 75. That means... And now keep in mind, there are a ton of leagues out there where teams aren't paying attention, but 75 is still so very low. Like, come on.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, my morning mimosa. I'm going to give a shout out to Kevin Stefanski. I have been very much a Stefanski hater. I think he's very overrated
all Browns fans.
I think he's very overrated as a play caller. I think he is stubbornly, I'm only going to run the football and that's it. You go out, you make the trade for Deshaun Watson. You then sign Deshaun Watson and guarantee him $230 million for a guy that he's going to throw the football. Like, he has multiple seasons, if I'm not mistaken, over 4,000 passing yards.
He does.
That's not going to happen in a Kevin Stefanski offense. But what lends me some hope here, and, again, he still ran the ball, but they held tight with the Bucs. They were down to the last inside less than a minute of overtime to go. Very easily could have just tied this game and went into the locker room, and that's it. Inside the 10, which I believe it was actually inside the 5, they could have just kicked the field goal, gone to the locker room with a win. This guy said, "Buck kickers." Sorry, Linda.
Yeah.
Straight up said, "I am not putting the hands, or better yet, putting this on the feet of my rookie kicker. I'm putting this in the hands of my best fucking player."
And York missed a very important field goal the week before, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It may have been 2 weeks before. So,
and they ran it up the gut. And not only did they run it up the gut once, they ran it up the gut twice. And Nick Chubb scores on the second run. They get the win. But like, that tells me that he wants to put the ball in the hands of his playmakers.
Yeah.
What is Deshaun Watson? He is a playmaker. Deshaun's going to do good things. I don't think that this is going to be a team now that's just going to throw the ball only 25 times and run it 40 times.
So it's interesting when you say that, because I wanted to go look after you said it. Would it shock you to know that Jacoby Brissett is 11th in the NFL in passing attempts right now?
Well, considering they've lost 7 out of 11, it does not surprise me.
Absolutely fair. But yeah, 368 attempts. So that's about 33 a game.
And that to me, that's pretty average.
Yeah.
That's pretty average. Like,
yeah, you want it into the 40s.
Especially for a quarterback that has the agility and the willingness to run the way that Brissett does. Like, he's not a Deshaun Watson. He's not a Jalen Hurts, but he's athletic enough that he can escape the pocket and scramble when he needs to. So, but yeah, like this just gives me confidence, like with Watson coming back. And, I know none of us here at Club Fantasy are Watson fans, but we know what he's capable of on the football field.
Absolutely.
And that's going to bleed over to Amari Cooper. It's going to bleed over to David Njoku, who had a fantastic touchdown catch in that game yesterday.
Yes, he did.
It's going to bleed over to Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's been a pleasant breakout this year in his third year in the league. Like, hopefully, I'm not saying that Watson's going to throw the football 40 times. And I know the first game or two is probably going to be a little iffy because he's knocking the rust off because he really hasn't played much over the last 2 years.
Looked awful in the preseason, but go ahead.
Very awful. Yeah, very awful. So the first couple games, yeah, we might see a little bit more of Nick Chubb, but down the home stretch, I think we're going to start seeing Watson throw the football, and that's going to be a good thing for us fantasy managers.
So, and Josh, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit, and I kind of alluded to it earlier in the show, is you got Deshaun Watson to win these last 6 games. And so now you have a 4-7 football team. And what brought this up for me and you was I was shocked the Browns didn't lay down yesterday. It was Jacoby Brissett's last game as a starter. I didn't think he'd be such a team motivator that they would.
He's auditioning for his next contract.
100%. And these were things I didn't take seriously enough. But when you look at the Browns' upcoming schedule, they have the Texans in Deshaun Watson's first game. I don't know that you could have a better first game if you're Deshaun Watson. Now, you do have a road game against the Bengals, but the Bengals have kind of had Joe Burrow's number. Home game against the Ravens, the Saints, who have a good defense, terrible offense, the Commanders, who are beatable, and then you end your season with the Steelers, who are not your typical division rival Steelers. And the Browns tend to win that late game against the Steelers every year. You have a team that if they win out, and maybe not even win out, but only lose one, you're looking at 9-8 or 10-7 and a likely playoff team that is ending the season red hot with a quarterback that got you there. The Browns could be a team to take seriously. Myles Garrett's been talking about he's just now starting to feel himself after the car accident and the injuries he's had to fight through. This is a team that I've always liked their defense, but you just haven't seen them put everything together. I'm very interested to see what the Browns can do in a division that any team can lose. Like, there's no dominant team in the AFC North.
Yeah, the Ravens look very vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, even the Bengals have been red hot lately, but we've seen bad Bengals at the beginning of the season as well. So it's a team that I find very interesting. I just kind of wanted to give a shout out to see Garrett Wilson actually get to prove that he is a very good football player. Thank you, Mike White. Thank the football gods for Mike White, because Garrett Wilson needed a game like this. 5 catches for 95 yards and not 1, but 2 touchdowns. This is what we wanted to see out of this young man. Zach Wilson's days are numbered in New York, plain and simple. I don't think it's going to be the Mike White show. I'm not exactly sure what the Jets are going to do. I personally think it's Jimmy Garoppolo, because they're just going to pilfer that San Francisco offense. And Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy who's going to make things work. If you've watched Jimmy Garoppolo, he has looked bad in certain games, but he looks good throwing the ball to Brandon Ayuk. And that's the kind of role Garrett Wilson would play in this offense. And I'm very excited to see Garrett Wilson as a professional, but definitely to see how he's going to end the season with a quarterback who is willing to throw that football. So,
well, and the flip side of that too, Elijah Moore finally got involved. He scored a touchdown yesterday. And that's what this offense needs. Like, I don't know why it took them so long to realize that Elijah Moore's a really good slot receiver. But like, you put a big option like Corey Davis or Denzel Mims on the outside. You've got, the speedy guy here and Garrett Wilson on the other side. You've got another speedy guy in Elijah Moore in the slot. Now you're working. Now you've got pieces. You've got that. Then you put a healthy Breece Hall back there. You have the tools to give someone like a Garoppolo to come in and make plays. That's why he's been so successful in San Francisco is because of the weapons that are around him. He's able to just get the ball to these guys and let them make plays. And that's what this Jets offense is set up for right now. So it'll be interesting when the offseason rolls around, because I don't know if this benching did Zach Wilson any good. Hopefully it does, because again, you want to see him succeed, because you blew us, and I say blew because let's face it, you could have had Justin Fields. You blew a second overall pick on Zach Wilson. So you want to give this guy an opportunity to take the reins and win this job back and be successful at it. So you don't have to go blow money on a Jimmy Garoppolo in free agency.
Yeah.
But yeah, this offense is set up perfectly. They need a field general. And I don't know if they have that guy on the roster right now.
Zach Wilson, this situation feels like Josh Rosen all over again. I just don't think he's
1000%.
it at all. The interceptions are ridiculous. I did a little blurb for Football Guys earlier this season that in his first 17 games, he had 17 turnovers. He was averaging a turnover a game, but against that, he had also only scored 11 total touchdowns or something like that. And that's just not acceptable in this NFL. If you're going to turn the ball over like Daniel Jones or Jameis Winston, you need to score touchdowns like Daniel Jones or Jameis Winston. And Zach Wilson is not doing that. So that's where I think I'm done with Zach Wilson. I hope the Jets are done with Zach Wilson. Me and Marleo were talking. We plan on being in New York for the long haul, and maybe we're going to declare our allegiance for one of these New York football teams. And if it's no Zach Wilson and yes Garrett Wilson, maybe I'm a fucking Jets fan. I don't know yet.
Christian has an open seat on the Jets bandwagon for you.
Okay. Hey, I'll take it. I'll have to get with him. There are things I need to learn. Josh, I don't want to say floored. It was fun when you announced that we were going to take our buy low, sell high creamer sugar and make it Dynasty edition, because I don't know shit about Dynasty. And I asked all the really smart people around. So these are going to probably be some really fun answers. I'm going to let you go ahead and get us started. But yeah, I went and just kind of pilfered free agency for how I was going to make my picks. But
no, and you know what? That's okay, because, some of the guys on your list, rookies, some of them veterans, etc. So I wanted to try to, I was looking at a few different options here. So like, obviously the big name for me that comes up, Jamar Chase, like he's spent time hurt. Contenders probably had him started to lose some games.
Yeah.
Likely more willing to trade him as a result, because they're chasing that championship. Now, maybe you might end up having to pay that premium because he's expected back this coming week, practice most of this week. But if you can still get Chase for even just that much cheaper than what he would be,
if you pay for what he's worth, that's still a savings, because then you're not overpaying.
Correct. So. 1,000%. But my ultimate buy high, and I want to give a shout out to a friend of the show, Sam Wallace. He talks about this every single offseason when he does his dynasty stuff. You cannot be afraid to buy high. Like when you identify like a young player or an ascending talent that has started to show signs, and the manager that has them probably doesn't want to get rid of them, it's okay to go out and buy a high. And my choice for buying high right now is Christian Watson. He looks like the absolute future wide receiver 1 for the Green Bay Packers. All of that Romeo Doubs talk, get rid of it. He's a number 2 at best. Christian Watson has not only the speed, but the big play ability and the size to be a legitimate wide receiver 1 in the NFL, and doing it. We know how a wide receiver 1 can operate in this offense, because we've seen it for years with Devontae Adams. I'm not saying Watson's going to be Devontae Adams. He still has a lot of work to do when it comes to route running, but his speed will make him a very dangerous weapon. And for a guy that was a second-round pick, I would not be opposed at all to giving up at minimum a wide receiver 1. Or
our buddy George even says, if you watch that Watson touchdown, that was purely based on speed.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? And as he mentions, can't really give Love credit for that. Love had to get him the football, and he put it in a position to where Watson could just take off with it. That, he didn't have to contort his body to, all this other stuff. Like, he caught it and ran, and that's what a wide receiver's job is: catch it and run. So I'm all about it. Go buy Christian Watson. I'll throw one more out, Ryan, before you get to yours really quick. Go get Damian Harris. He's a free agent. I think by now we know that the Patriots RB1 is not Damian Harris. It is Ramondre Stevenson. The dude can do it all, and he's damn good at it. And here's my big prediction. I've been saying it all season. Damian Harris to the Las Vegas Raiders. You know, every head coach always wants to like revamp their team, make it in their image. And you've seen how the Raiders have started to jettison some of these players from the old regime, and they're doing it in the middle of the freaking season. So like weird. They just flat out waived Jonathan Abram a few weeks back. Doesn't fit what they want to do on this team. And they're going forward with Josh McDaniel.
And like, he was still their starting safety at the time.
Yeah. So like, I don't, as great as Josh Jacobs has been, they're not going to go spend, $10 million a year on a running back or even $8 million a year. They could probably go out and get Damian Harris for $3 to $5 million, and I think that's a fair price for a starting NFL running back. He'll be their RB1 because he knows exactly what Josh McDaniels wants to do.
Yeah,
and they have their first round pick this year. They have the means to go out and start drafting people to fit their system. They don't need to go spend that draft capital on a running back, and they can work Damian Harris in with one of your buys, Zamir White.
And so, yeah, I was going to say a couple of our things are actually counterpoint to each other. I have Zamir White, and what I did here is I looked at Josh Jacobs is gone, and then I don't believe Amir Abdullah. I
was
think
a 1 year.
One of the two. I say one of them's a 1 year, and the other one's a 2 year. I think Brandon Bolden might be a 2 year. So regardless, I think Zamir White, and I told Josh this. I watch Red Zone. It's how I watch football. And they showed Zamir White 2 amazing carries yesterday. I was like, this kid looks really good. And then I go look at his stat line at the end of the game. It was those 2 carries. That's all he did the whole game. But they're still just going to keep feeding Josh Jacobs. And that's the whole point here. They kind of are saving this rookie. So even if they do get a guy like Damian Harris, I'm interested to see where Zamir White ends up. And Josh
McDaniels runs a 2-back system. It's what he's always done.
Exactly. And I think Zamir White's going to be super involved next year and probably the year after as well. So he's a guy I'm looking to acquire. I also want to get Trey McBride. We know how much they are using the tight end of that offense. And McBride hasn't put up good numbers, which makes him available to buy right now. But if you look, they targeted the tight end position yesterday 6 or 7 times. Zach Ertz was one of the leading target getters in the league before he went down. And I just don't see Zach Ertz remaining with this team next year. I think they're going to turn things over to Trey McBride. And we know tight ends take time. If you have an impatient manager in your league, Trey McBride is an easy buy right now. And this was kind of my prediction, Josh, because you mentioned you wanted to see some rookie whose name I don't know because I don't know any rookies in Kansas City next year. I think the table is set for Kareem Hunt to come home. Obviously, Kareem Hunt left Kansas City in a very ugly circumstance. It was a bad move by him all around. I feel like he has grown as a person. The whole point of coming to the Browns was for him to improve his image and everything. I think the Chiefs have been missing him since he was gone. They had to get rid of him at the time. He was on his way to being the RB1 in fantasy football with the Kansas City Chiefs. And obviously he's not that anymore, but he's still not old by any stretch. And I think he gets to come back into an offense that fully needs him and gets to take over things. I am going to buy Kareem Hunt right now, and I think he is the starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs again. My last buy is Kenneth Gainwell just because Miles Sanders is a free agent. That's how I looked at this.
I will gladly sell you all the Kenny Gainwell.
I knew you weren't going to like it, but he scored another touchdown yesterday, and he tends to find the end zone in games where they're giving Miles Sanders a break, and that just leads me to believe maybe he's the guy next year. The one other thing I want to have before I get into your sell is one of my sells is all Green Bay Packers and all Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is me thinking Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady are done. I agree with everything you said about Christian Watson, and bad teams can have good wide receivers. So I'm good with that. But Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, you don't even know if they're there next year. You don't know what teams they're going to end up on. This is probably the time to sell them. A.J. Dillon is kind of iffy, but he did score a touchdown yesterday. Romeo Doubs, get rid of him if someone believes that's going to happen. I'm getting rid of my Mike Evans, my Chris Godwins. I don't know who the quarterback is there next year. It's rough. I maybe am holding Rachaad White, but that Rachaad White value could be because of Tom Brady. I think he had 9 targets yesterday, and that's what we wanted to see out of Rachaad White. I'm moving every player from these 2 teams because I think we are going to see a Los Angeles Rams descent into mediocrity and terribleness. So I'm moving every Green Bay Packer, every Tampa Bay Buccaneer if I have them.
All right. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, Evans obviously starting to get up there in age a little bit. He's starting to creep towards that 30-year mark. Fournette is Fournette is what it is. Yeah, I can see it. I mean, I'm all about trading running backs anyway, and obviously, between those three.
Speaking of trading running backs, Josh, you have an interesting sell.
Well, for me, this goes to you should have sold him weeks ago.
Yeah, you've been saying it for a while.
Yeah, I'm selling Javonte Williams. And I actually did trade him in one league. I was kind of one of those like contenders, and well, that's come back to bite me in the ass. But yeah, Javonte Williams, look, he tore his ACL. That's fine. It is what it is. Guys come back from that. But he had additional knee damage with this. And that's the same situation that we found ourselves in with J.K. Dobbins. And what has year 3 been for Dobbins? It's been a lost season.
Yep.
Well, now you're getting into year 4 next year for J.K. Dobbins. I would not be shocked by any stretch of the imagination if we see a similar situation with Javonte Williams. Yeah. If he does come back next year, it's probably going to be in the middle of the season, which there goes half the year. Maybe he's a league winner for you, quote unquote, as the season goes on. But the way that they want to run this offense, he's not going to be a 20 touchback the way that everybody wants him to be. And that's where so much of his value was insulated by, because people looked at him as a workhorse. He's not going to be that in Denver, especially if they keep Nathaniel Hackett.
Yep.
And right now, you don't know whether he will or not. So I would much rather sell Williams now and get whatever insulated value remains. And if they do make a coaching change, maybe I can rebuy him for 80 cents on the dollar.
Williams is an interesting case as well, because Williams is the type of team that is struggling this year, who has too many draft picks, is probably willing to overpay for, because they're thinking they're going to be in a better spot next year. So that's where you're going to, a lot of times when you're a seller, you're looking for the teams that are contending to try to get those like last few good players out of you. With Williams, you want to look for a team that's trash and just get them to overpay, because they probably have the capital and go get it. My last one, I'm just going to quickly, I have DJ Moore on here. This is just me thinking the Panthers are a train wreck and have no direction. But the more interesting one, I think it's time to probably move Cooper Kupp, because there's no light at the end of the tunnel for the Rams, and Cooper Kupp is great. But how great is Cooper Kupp if Bryce Hopkins or Bryce Perkins, I can't get this kid's name right for the life of me, but if Bryce Perkins is the damn quarterback, or if it's John Wolford, because I don't know that it's Matt Stafford. We're putting a lot of faith in a very old and very hurt Matt Stafford coming back and being a quarterback again. And I don't know that it's it. Cooper Kupp is fantastic, and he is likely a top 15 wide receiver next year. I don't know if he is a top 5 wide receiver with as bad as this football team is going to be. And I think people are still willing to pay a premium for Cooper Kupp. If I had him, I don't. I'm moving him.
I don't hate it at all. I don't have Kupp on any of my teams. I tend to keep my wide receiver position as young as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all about it. And I think, like you said, you can still get a premium for Cooper Kupp. So go out and do it.
Absolutely. Josh, tell the people about Manscaped one more time.
All right. Club Fantasy's Monday Hangxiety is presented by Manscaped. The best in men's below-the-waist grooming, Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, the Performance Package. It includes the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver groin deodorant, which fucking fantastic. The Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of your goodies. So join over 5 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you. Go to manscaped.com, where you use the promo code CLUBFANTASY, as you can see on the little ticker below us. It'll save you 20% on your entire purchase and get you free shipping. So once again, go to manscaped.com, enter in the code CLUBFANTASY, and get 20% off as early as right now. Or, in like 5 minutes after we wrap up the show.
And with the holidays coming up, it's a great gift for the man, woman in your life, your dad. Like, it's a very just cool thing, and it's high quality. That's the most important thing. But I'm going to be even more vain about this. People are always wondering, how can you help the show? We don't do Patreon. We don't do any of these things. And it's no knock on the folks that do. But this is how you help the show. When we get partnerships like this, help yourself, help the show. Use the damn promo code. We'd appreciate it.
Manscaped.com. Use the promo code CLUBFANTASY. Save 20% and get free shipping. Manscaped.com.
All right, let's wrap up the show how we always do, Josh. The reason we started this show was you and I trying to decide who to tell people when it's time to chill the fuck out. And this could have been somebody who had way too good of a performance and they're not going to repeat it, or someone who's just down in the dumps right now. So, Josh, who should people chill the fuck out on?
I just have one choice this week.
I have many. So
I know we've been waiting on this guy all
Yes.
freaking season, and it only took till week 12. Let's chill out on Elijah Moore. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that Mike White remains the starting quarterback, but we see this all the time where backup quarterbacks come in, they have one really good game, and then they turn back into a pumpkin. Because guess what? There's a reason they're backups. Yep. And they had a good matchup this week against the not so great Bears team. Maybe this is the start of something, but I'm not willing to start trotting Elijah Moore out in my redraft lineups.
Do not.
It's just I'm not doing it. The one touchdown, great. If your trade deadline is still active and you've got somebody that held Elijah Moore for way too long and now they're regretting it that they released him and he had the bounce back, go trade him. Yeah. All for it. But let's pump the brakes on Elijah Moore. I'm not convinced.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I went with some pretty obvious guys. Isaiah Pacheco, I saw people getting very, very excited about the amount of carries he had yesterday, but he still averaged 3.6 yards a carry. And I understand the Rams are a good defense. I'm still just not sold. I feel like people are going to treat him like a big dynasty buy, thinking it's going to lead into great things next year. But we see these lower drafted or not drafted running backs get replaced all the time. I'm not freaking out about DeAndre Swift. It's Jamal Williams this year, plain and simple. Enjoy it. It sucks. DeAndre Swift is still a very talented running back. He looks very good when he touches the football. I am not worried about DeAndre Swift. And then the last one is kind of funny, but not really. Nelson Aguilar and Devontae Parker. I'm getting trade offers where people are throwing in Devontae Parker like he matters. And I'm like, no, come on. The Patriots threw the ball 39 times yesterday, or Thursday rather, the most they've thrown it in the season. And they did it against one of the worst secondaries in football. We talk about it all the time. The Vikings cannot stop wide receivers, plain and simple. I am not buying these BS wide receivers from the New England Patriots. We can just completely chill out about getting excited about the New England Patriots wide receiver core. For my deep waivers, I kind of changed my own rules a little bit and went to 20% just because there's nobody out there. I do want to say that Richie James, who was my complete throw-in, had another good week as the only wide receiver for the New York Giants. So go ahead and grab yourself Richie James, available in 99% of leagues. Remember, the point of deep waivers is if you're in a very deep league or even if you're in dynasties right now, these are guys who should be out there. I'm liking Kez Watkins while Dallas Goedert is out. As I mentioned, I don't think we were giving Goddard credit for how important he is to this offense. But with the loss of Goddard, instead of going to one of these lesser tight ends, they're going to more of a 3 wide receiver set. Kez Watkins is looking really good, playing nice complementary football to Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, much like Josh has talked about numerous times with the Philadelphia Eagles. You're not going to have a week where all 3 of them hit. Kez Watkins is more likely to be the one who gets left in the dark, but he's always good for a big touchdown every now and then. Matt Collins, I think we got 2 more weeks with no Darren Waller and no Hunter Renfrow. Matt Collins has been kind of the secondary target behind Devontae Adams when they're not just running the ball with Josh Jacobs. He's available in 88% of leagues. Dontrell Hilliard, I like to try to give you guys running back options. There's not a lot of very good running back options right now. I said Dontrell Hilliard for the same reason I've been saying Dontrell Hilliard. He's good for 5 to 7 points in any given week. He's involved in the passing game. And if Derrick Henry goes down, Dontrell Hilliard is going to be a league winner. I'm not saying Derrick Henry is going to go down, but Dontrell Hilliard's a guy you should have 100% rostership if you are a Derrick Henry manager, and he's 91% available. And my last one is a guy I've been talking about for a while, Kieran Williams. Cam Akers ain't it. They cut Darrell Henderson. The Rams are a complete shit show. Kieran Williams is their 5th-round pick. He's active in the passing game. He's available in 80% of fantasy leagues. If you're looking for a running back, Kieran Williams is a guy you want on your roster. He could be fun to end the season on a team that has nobody to throw the ball to at this point. And that kind of goes along with my guys I said we could cut. I kind of look for folks that are more than 30% rostered. Cam Akers at 57% rostership. It's not happening, plain and simple. Maybe next year with this Achilles injury, but you can cut him 57% rostered. Kenyon Drake, I'm going to take the L on this one, a very big L. I've been telling people to side Kenyon Drake. I did not expect them just to go all the way back to Gus Edwards coming back off of his injury. Now you have J.K. Dobbins that's going to be back probably in the next 2 weeks. Kenyon Drake, 44% roster, get rid of him. Mike Gesicki, 49% roster. There's just not enough usage in this offense. And they always tend to find their backup tight ends, their Durham Smythe, their Hunter Longs to score their touchdowns. It's just very rarely Mike Gesicki. Robert Tonyan, not involved in this Green Bay offense now that they've switched to these younger wide receivers, 34% rostered. You can move on from him. And my last one is Russell Wilson, who made the stream of the week list as a 50% rostered guy. Never again will that happen. Russell Wilson looks absolutely awful. I don't know how many weeks you're going to let this guy beat you before.
Let's ride!
Yeah, I don't
It's
know
the
how
last
many weeks.
place.
I don't know how many weeks you're going to let this guy kill your fantasy team before you realize that 10 points out of your quarterback ain't getting it done. 50% roster. I would love to see that down below 30% next week. Those are the guys I'm letting go. Josh, go ahead and give the people your Monday night prediction. Steelers take on the Indianapolis Colts, and tell everybody bye after you do that.
I think the Steelers might pull this one out. I really do. I mean, their defense hasn't been all that, but you get Fitzpatrick back. TJ Watt's been back now for a couple weeks. They can now start rushing the passer, and really it just boils down to, what Kenny Pickett do we get? Like, are we going to see the guy that, throws 200 yards and 2 touchdowns? Or are we going to get the guy that throws 300 yards and 3 interceptions? Like, it's can they control the ground game? That's what they need to do. Najee Harris had 90 plus yards last week. They need to be able to do that on offense again this week. I'm finding myself very invested in this whole Jeff Saturday as the head coach thing, just because so many people are against it, and I like rooting for underdogs. So I'm kind of rooting for them to like pull this out, but I'm okay with the Steelers winning this. I mean, it's 2 bad teams, and it really shouldn't be a Monday night game, but it is, and we're all going to watch it anyway because we're degenerates.
You kind of said exactly what I was going to say, is that I predict that these 2 teams don't score 30 points tonight. I don't know who's going to win, but I don't think they combine.
I was going to say, I think it'll be like 24-20 Steelers. Okay. That's what I think.
So you're giving the offenses a little bit more credit. I'm at 16-10. I think it's going to be an ugly game. Okay. We've been spoiled with some of these really good primetime games lately, and we forget how bad some of them were earlier this season. And I think this one's going to remind us. So I'm going to say 16-10, but I'm also going the Pittsburgh Steelers. I agree with you there.
Sounds good.
Any parting words for our folks?
I do not. I've got some questions to go through. And tomorrow is the 2nd episode of Her Story in the Making, with host Britt Flynn, and our guest this week is Miss Lindellians herself, the kicker advocate that we all love.
Yes.
She'll be guesting with Britt, and that show will be on probably a little bit before 8:30 this week, because I know Linda has another commitment that she has at 9:00, so we want to try to get her off a little bit beforehand. But Her Story in the Making, co-production between Fantasy Alarm and Women of Fantasy. You can find it right here on the Club Fantasy YouTube page. Should be going on probably about 8:15, I would assume. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a good one. And if I'm not mistaken, we also debut another show tomorrow night as well. We're finishing up the graphics for it, but Club Fantasy and Women of Fantasy are venturing away from football, and we're getting into the golf space.
Oh my goodness.
The new show, Who's Your Caddy? With our own Women of Fantasy co-host Kelly Singh, and Joe Zolo will be hosting that show with Kelly. So if you like playing golf and know a thing or two about it, and maybe want to, get in with more DFS stuff, tune in. That show will be on at 9:30 Eastern Tuesday night.
And that's one of my favorite things about Club Fantasy and Women of Fantasy, is that Kelly has something she's very good at besides football. And you guys have given her an avenue. You've given her an avenue. We've given her an avenue to go ahead and talk about that. And Kelly and Joe together is just going to be a hilarious show, because if people don't remember, when Kelly started really working with us at Club Fantasy, she used to just come on the Wednesday show and give Joe shit in the comments for the entire 1 hour show. And now they get to do it live. And I, for one, I don't know anything about DFS golf. I barely know anything about golf anymore since my knees have went on me. I'm going to be tuning into this show just for the entertainment factor, because I think they're just going to end up screaming at each other the entire time.
It's going to be fun. I can't wait.
It's going to be very fun.
I haven't even seen a show outline, and I'm kind of intrigued by it.
Will there be one? No, I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. If you're looking for fantasy football content, stay tuned with Club Fantasy. We have articles that drop every single day of the week, starting with my waiver article tomorrow. But we're going to have my streams of the week. We're going to have DFS articles. We're going to have articles about underdog over-unders. We're here doing it for you every single day of the week. So
Speaking of underdog, Chris hit on 4 of his 5.
4 of 5. Yep.
Yeah.
Big week for our boy Chris Molina. He's had some weird ones lately with him being a very good lawyer. He's had to put a lot of time to the job. He's had to take some weeks off, but he comes back into it with a 4 for 5 after giving me and Josh the reins and letting us just make complete asses of ourselves. So I'm glad to see Chris back in the saddle there. And Club Fantasy still does live shows every Wednesday, every Saturday, where we spend a lot of time answering your questions. Way more importantly, on Thursdays, you get our IDP show and the absolute most adorable show in fantasy football, the Sneaky Flex with the Sneaky Girls. Shout out to Kelly, shout out to Dave, and shout out to Maisie and Rowan over there. If you're not taking 15 minutes of your day on Thursday night to watch the Sneaky Flex, you are wasting your time in fantasy football, because this is what it's all about. We thank each and every one of you for tuning into this show. Please make sure you hit subscribe. As we hit our subscriber milestones, we're going to be giving away more and more jerseys. It's just what we do. We spend Josh's money. I hope everybody has a great Monday. Good luck this week if you need some help out of that Monday night game, and good luck to the Steelers defense. I hope to see George get a win out of that one. Have a good day, everybody.
There you go.